Okay, hello everyone and welcome. Jen here, as usual, introducing another amazing speaker. But before I get too far into this, we are taking questions at the end. I'm checking Facebook throughout, so please drop any questions or comments you have in the Facebook Live, and then we'll be making the video available afterwards as well. Anyway, so now on to the exciting part. Tanya Williamson. So I met Tanya in Great Dames. And the more I get to know Tanya, the more it just blows my mind that she happened to join my Great Dames group and that she's willing to speak to this organization or to our small Facebook group because she has done so much cool stuff. Tanya is the founder of Married to the Ring. She is also an author, a podcaster, a speaker, and a coach. And I will let her elaborate on anything that I missed because, like I said, she has done everything. And her career is really interesting, and we're going to be getting more into that today. So hello and welcome, Tanya. And
hey.
Hi. And I guess, is there anything else that you wanted to say to introduce yourself that I missed?
Absolutely not. You can go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's do our first question. What inspired you to create this organization? How did you get the idea for Married to the Ring?
Wow. So I got the idea. Actually, Married to the Ring is a relationship coaching organization. And I got the idea because I am in my second marriage. My first marriage failed. And I tried to seek out resources on how to really relate in my second marriage. And I really could not find any resources. I went to the church, and in the church, a lot of individuals at that time was saying, look, just pray about it. But I had realized that some of the issues that I had not dealt with previously still needed to be addressed. And so I went on this rampart on trying to find educational resources, the same amount of time that an individual spends in investing in your career path, investing in your financial path, investing in your education. I wanted to be very intentional about investing in my second marriage. And so that's how it actually started. That's how Married to the Ring actually started.
Okay, sorry. So I know a little bit about the Married to the Ring workshops, but do you mind, I guess, explaining how they work to the people who might not be familiar with it?
Absolutely. So Married to the Ring, we are a multifaceted organization where we offer relationship education tools and solutions in various sectors in the workplace, in individual lives, in marriage, marital relationships, as well as co-parenting relationships. So we offer various relationship education tools. We have seminars, we have an annual boxing ring event. So unlike traditional relationship coaching organizations, we actually have an innovative boxing ring experience coupled with an array of curriculum-based resources and a relationship intelligence framework that we have built in that's customized uniquely to the audience that we are actually serving. Within our boxing ring experience, which is what actually catapulted Married to the Ring, is we actually place 12 individuals in the boxing ring that are able to share testimonies relative to the subjects that we are targeting specifically in the ring in order for relationships that are broken or life obstacles that someone had experienced previously. It can let the individuals in the audience know that they are not alone, but they too are champions of championing a situation that others thought that they would never ever be able to champion or come back in successfully. And so Married to the Ring offers that annual boxing ring event. We also do speaker workshops and seminars where we're able to target specific areas in a relationship, such as, or for instance, communication, danger signs, pitfalls, as it relates to attracting or healthy relationships. We also talk specifically about how to exit out of relationships that are toxic, healthily, and that's on both partners aspects. We also offer violence against girls and women and violence against boys and men training, so that the perpetrator as well as the victims are actually receiving the appropriate training. But specifically in the corporation sector, we offer a curriculum called Winning in the Workplace. And that curriculum in itself is teaching people, it's a diversity and inclusion curriculum that teaches individuals how to embrace the various cultures and the differences that one may be experiencing in the workplace, and making sure that they're not bleeding toxic relationships from their personal experiences into the workplace, and vice versa, from the workplace into their personal experiences. And so we offer an array of items across the board.
Yeah, I was going to say, just listening to that, I'm like, oh man, how do you keep it all straight?
Well, it's interesting. We do. I mean, we definitely have tailored our channels accordingly. So today, Married to the Ring, specifically from a global perspective, our aim and our goal after doing intense research is directed towards violence against girls and women and violence against boys and men, specifically related to the perpetrator, and making sure that we can address issues that would allow that individual to heal holistically. For our business-to-business channels, we primarily focus specifically on the winning in the workplace, because that's where corporations are looking for teammates to collaborate so that the performance will increase, over time, and they don't create a toxic culture. For our individual population, we have a market of women who have either been divorced, widowed, or are still single, and they're having a difficult time, or rather they want prevention tools in order to know how to attract the right relationship or a healthy relationship. And we offer co-parenting for single fathers and men who are incarcerated that are co-parenting. So that's our individual population. For our marriage population, we offer a dynamic course. Every marriage requires work, but it doesn't mean that you have to be in a difficult season in your marriage in order to get prevention or relationship education tools. So we do a full-blown road mapping course that really allows marriages to stay abreast and stay engaged, so that marriages can come back to the forefront. So hopefully that made a lot more sense in all the channels that we serve.
Oh no, it definitely makes sense. It's just a lot.
It's a lot. It is.
You help a lot of different people in a lot of ways.
Do you see why we're here? Do you see this is Friday? This is my hot spot. I want to be at the beach so bad, but instead I'm down here at Old Newcastle because I love the water and I love to meditate so I can keep my mind freed up.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were in Newcastle.
Yeah, I'm at Old Newcastle. I'm at the Battery Park right now. I'm sitting in the park having a discussion with you.
Yeah. Oh, that's cute. Okay, I have to get out there. Anyway, so questions. Okay, we talked about how you had the vision, and we talked about where you are now, but how did you get there? So how did you get from, I have this great idea, to that first client or that first project?
So as I stated earlier, or mentioned for those of you that are just joining, I couldn't find tools personally. And I was a private individual coming out of corporate. I knew that doing business was easy for me, but doing marriage was very difficult for me. I come from a divorced household. Both parents co-parented and raised me as a child. And so as a result of that, I never got an opportunity to really see what a healthy marriage looks like. And they say that ideally, children, if the divorce is at a very early age, the probability of that person having a divorce when they're adults is extremely high. And so when I couldn't find the resources, I started to search them out. So I hosted an event. My husband owns a construction company. We literally thought that this would just be a one-time event. And we hosted it in downtown Wilmington at a creative spot. And we went in and built a boxing ring, symbolic to, hey, this is what's happening. And we selected 12 women to get into the ring. Or actually, our first session was 9 women to get into the ring. We actually sold out. The event had almost about 125 participants. We only targeted 50. 50 had registered. And I said, wow. And so what we had learned in that event is that the individuals that participated were not just married. They were single. They They were women who were divorced. They were challenged because other individuals, that are marriage were masks, were facades, and they made marriage look easy, but they didn't want to explain to them that marriage requires a lot of work. And so when we hosted that event was just, it was phenomenal. It was just absolutely phenomenal. Then we had a person come up to us and say, listen, we want to invest in a second event. You can't leave this city without moving forward and having another event. We were like, no, we're not scheduling another event. And ironically, they went and got the venue for us at Blue Bell venue in Concord off of Concord Pike. And we, within 30 days, we sold out with over 225 participants in over 7 states flying in. And we said, wait a minute, we have a problem here. So as a business consultant, I pulled back. I said, wait a minute, do I have a business model here? Or do I have just 2 events that I'm sponsoring? After conducting my due diligence, we discovered that we needed to set up a business here. The events were not sufficient enough. The events were great in having, but guess what? We weren't providing tools. We were allowing individuals to identify an issue, but we weren't providing fulfillment to addressing the issue. So in our business plan, fast forward, we took the initiatives, hired the proper individuals around us, pursued our trademark, and then we started to build. And in our business plan is over 70 pages. We were able to, it's huge, right? In that business plan, we were able to take, we built, I would say 75 to 80% of it in less than 3 years. So we were able to travel abroad. We were booked abroad, and we hosted an event, a co-host event over in England. And we took 21 participants from the United States to join us, and they had 12 representatives in the ring that were from different countries over in the UK. So that was our first international experience. And that's when I slowed down a little bit and said, there's a lot more to this. There's a lot more rules. So we launched a product, from the product with 12 amazing women from various areas in the United States with a book. And then from there, in my research, I knew that we needed to build curriculum. And so we partnered with one of the leading universities here in the United States of maritime relations studies. And we partnered with psychologists and different individuals, and we integrated a 15-part curriculum in our framework that fulfills or addresses and provides the tools needed for individuals after events who are seeking to get additional coaching and additional resources so that they can actually move forward into having a healthy relationship. And so that's just a fast forward journey. So we've served 2 countries in 7 states in 2.5 years. And
can I jump in? So that first UK event, how did that even happen? Did you already have connections over there? Or
so it was strange. I was booked to speak in Philadelphia at an event. But I didn't know that another participant who was a speaker at the event was a world leader. And the individual who was the world leader who spoke at the event, we just connected. We connected, and ideally from there, I am a woman of faith, and so I pray about everything. And I was like, I know we're going to connect again. And so ironically, I was like, we're going to be in the United Kingdom. We're going back to England. And so we connected, and it took us about 6 to 7 months to really plan that trip and how it would look. But during the essence of planning, that's when I really discovered that from a business framework perspective in leading a culture previously as an executive, I was like, there's more to this globalization piece. There's more things that we need to do. We're doing services, but we also realized when I spoke with my attorneys that, international trademark protection is very different than U.S. trademark protection. So we didn't allow them to record over there and release the videos of what we actually did besides pictures until we could legitimately map out how everything would go for our organization on a go-forward basis.
Right. So when you were planning this, how important do you think it was to have your corporate background to kind of get started with it?
Oh my gosh. I would say without, first of all, my prayer life and without my corporate backing as an executive who actually did startups and closures of facilities in 4 states under my leadership, it wasn't doable. And let me explain to you why. I have a very diversified background, and there's certain triggers within the business sector that you have to understand when moving into certain markets. Immediately, one of the things that I knew for certain when we went to the UK was that this wasn't, taking individuals to another country with me included a lot more than just a trip, an international trip. Hey, we're going across the borders. No, we were going as a representation of my business, as my organization, which is a for-profit entity. And so as a result of that, I immediately went downtown Wilmington to AAA Corporate. And I spoke with them and I said, listen, I am a new organization, but I need to book up to 25 flights and I need to book with travel arrangements. AAA looked into everything, contacted me within a 24-hour time frame, and we set it up as a corporate travel, in partnership with Married to the Ring. And the insurances and all of the controls that my organization didn't have at that time, as a travel agency and being large in their scale from an international level, they had controls. So what I did as a smaller business is I partnered with someone who had controls that would protect us mutually, the clients that are traveling, myself, as well as the travel agency, partner with them. And I leveraged their resources in order to allow my brand to go abroad. And that's what happened in England.
Okay. I feel like that's a theme that you see. Everyone wants this magic answer to like, how does my business get big? How do I scale? And it's partnerships. It's good partnerships. Yeah.
Partnerships are huge. Partnerships, but let me say this, Jen, partnerships with the right capacity. And what I mean by capacity is you're looking at taking almost 25 people over to the United Kingdom. That's almost 60,000 carryover, right? That's almost a 60,000 carryover. And you have insurances, you have liability, you have control, you have disbursement of funds. You need to make sure the accommodations are travel, flight, all of that stuff is taken care of. And here it is, my organization doesn't have the capital to uphold that amount. We're still new, right? Yeah. So partnering with AAA Corporate and they allowing us to be able to carry over that type of revenue over a 4-month period for our people to travel into another country was just above and beyond. And making sure that our entry into that country with the controls and what they were fluent on in international travels was above and beyond. And making sure that the checklist of what we needed and our requirements to go to the United Kingdom were taken care of, and that all of the parties received the appropriate communication was above and beyond. And so you have to partner with individuals that can hold your capacity, but also help you move into the direction so you can learn from them. From that one trip, I was able to say, these are the controls that Married to the Ring need to put in place. These are the things that we aspire and we're going to need in the long term. Those things are, in partnership with them, we were able to learn some valuable lessons.
Yeah. Can I ask a money question?
Yes.
Okay. So just like thinking about that number for the cost to get over to another country or for international travel, when you book events overseas, is that built into the cost of those events? Like, is that corporation footing the bill?
Well, let me tell you, and I love to share this part because I didn't know this, right? Like, I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy. We're just going to go ahead. We cut the cost. We didn't upsell the charge, meaning that Married to the Ring didn't make any profit off of the event. And for those of you that are small business owners, what you have to do is you have to conduct your due diligence, your costs. You also want to charge for services You have to look at both aspects. You have to charge for services, whereas if you're a for-profit, you're also making a profit for the service that you're rendering in that specific country. And then you also have to make sure that the travel, well, my lesson learned was we just flat out charge for travel, right? And that was okay because this was like a beta test for me, a new experience. But guess what I didn't consider? I didn't consider the individuals who were paying overtime versus paying upfront. I didn't consider the merchant transaction fees on my end. So I actually took a hit and had to pay out of pocket fees that were deducted from my bank and foreign transaction fees as a direct result of not doing all of my homework up front and making sure that what I was billing them for was inclusive of all transactions, not just the single transaction from AAA.
Right. Yeah, even if you're not international, if you're here in Delaware and you travel to another state, like, hey, sales tax.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't know that because we do business, and throughout the United States, you have to govern your products and services and align them to sales tax within that specific state because you're doing business in that state. But all of those changes were happening around that period from a regulatory perspective. And so it wasn't a fine perspective. I believe it was something that was just deployed fully in 2019. It was not. It was just coming about in 2018.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk challenges. What have been some of the biggest obstacles in building this business?
Okay, so this is what I really want to talk about.
Oh.
I really want to talk about, right? So, okay, so I'm all excited, valuable lesson, took a couple $1,000 loss on our end with regards to merchant transaction fees. I'm excited. The next opportunity comes up. Tanya, hey, let's go to Nigeria.
Oh.
Right? And so, once again, it's foreign land for me. I don't quite understand everything. And ironically, the UK experience, I started to conduct my due diligence on any programs that would be able to offset and offer me tools and resources. Because remember, I'm a business consultant. I kind of understand the framework. I'm not just running a relationship coaching organization. To every business, you have to have a good framework, and that's just the bottom line. So here's Nigeria. I accept Nigeria without evaluating the cost. But for Nigeria, it was a little different because I knew that I was going over there to speak, but I only took another one of my colleagues who also spoke from a different state. And I said, hey, let's go ahead over here. Let's take this. This one's really different for us because this requires a lot of different things. So what we did not account for this time, but it was positive because we were Married to the Ring was going through an extensive interview process to enter into what we call the Export Tech program. I learned that traveling abroad and rendering a service really requires partnerships with those countries. You just can't do business with countries and not know what their rules and regulations are or their standards are in those countries. But because the same world leader offered me the opportunity to speak to 2 cities over in Nigeria, I was like, we're going to eat at this. And what I didn't know is we sat down, we met with the CDC on my end, which I didn't take into consideration because we didn't have all those CDC requirements going to the UK, but to Nigeria because it's a SEV-free country, meaning that it's a high risk country and there's only certain borders that the US can cover you in. That meant that on this trip, I needed a security plan, right? So that meant that they had to work on a security plan. That meant that we also had to meet with the CDC and get like almost 15 vaccinations, various types of vaccinations and preparations over a 90-day period, which cost us almost $1,500 out of pocket expenses. We didn't account for that. We also had to make sure that the colleagues that were partnering with me to travel abroad, Married to the Ring was going on a business visa. So we had to get our business visas cleared. And then those organizations that, or one organization that was traveling with me, they're going under my business visa. So we had to supply them with paperwork in order for them to get clearance in order to go into Nigeria as well. We also had to supply Nigeria, the organization over in Nigeria, we had to supply their legitimate legal paperwork to their government to even solidify that we were allowed to enter into their territory. So at that point, I said, listen, I want to make my money back. The money that I didn't account for on this trip, I want to make my money back, right? And
You're breaking up a little bit.
I said, let's over there, and the world shipping service or goods. They doing business within their country, but not yet. So right away, that's when I pulled in the World Trade Center, the SBA, that whole team. I was going through an interview process for the Export Tech program, and they started bringing out all these resources. I mean, they were the experts. They are familiar with all the hubs, and they automatically partner me up with the U.S. consulate over in Nigeria. And basically, it required a little bit more due diligence in order to import goods into their country and the whole process. And so when I learned about that, I was like, oh my God, what is exportation, importation? I thought that I could go around the world and just speak, hey, international. No. I can go around the world and just hire someone, and no. That's why, and I don't say this in a arrogant or a demeaning way. It's an insult to companies who are truly doing international business and international trade. When you hear small businesses say that they're international, you should see the amount of work that we put in to building an international, the amount of cost, the amount of legal requirements and partnership and packaging, and not to mention the upcoming changes that we're having to invest in, our automation, being able to support the cultures in those locations, and the systems and the front work, and the various domains that need to be created, and channeling of the language and messaging and translating. When you look at what we put into it, it's kind of an insult, because going across the channel and actually speaking is very different than importing or exporting or entering into agreements with those countries, which is where we took a couple steps back and said, listen, we need to build this, and we need to build it right. And we built and spent time with the Delaware Export Tech program, which they source through. It's only 8 businesses that are selected annually. And last year, I believe they allowed a few more to go over the cusp. But that interview process is extensive because the competition is fierce. And so when we were accepted into that program, we were truly honored to be able to sit down and really build a legitimate framework that most businesses, it takes them 25 years to build. And we were able to build that framework within 3 months. Now that framework, we're delivering the actionable items during COVID-19, and we're still delivering items through its implementation before we deploy officially. But now we have the U.S. backing us up. We have, the World Trade Center. We have the U.S. e-commerce. We have the right individuals backing us up that will give us the expertise. And we have hubs in those locations. And I'm looking forward to going back to the United Kingdom, which was our first visit. But now we're going back to Europe to do business for real. And so this is going to be absolutely amazing,
Yeah.
So it feels very good.
That's
I don't know if that's too much information, but
no, that was good. I think that reinforced my thought that I'll just stick with business in the US for now.
Yeah, well, this is the key. Let me say this to you, Jen. In building the national plan, I was tasked by a State Department head to say, okay, Tanya, one of the reasons I got into the program is because I already had international presence. I was starting to do business, but I wasn't doing it the right way. You know what I'm saying? So I was starting to do business, so we were able to show that performance. But what's most important is that as you're moving, it requires a plan. And that plan may take 6 months to 18 months to 22 months. But we were excited because we initially, when we started Married to the Ring, we trademarked all of our channels. You can't export goods and services without owning your stuff. And so with us owning our stuff and getting clearance through the USPTO, it made our process a little bit more simpler.
Yeah. Real quick, you don't have a hard stop, do you?
No.
Okay, because
Okay.
I don't know how it's 1:30 already, but it is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I was going to say I can cut down my questions if I need to, but if I don't need to, I'll just keep rolling.
Okay.
Okay, so I was hoping that you could give us some hints about what's coming up for you guys in your nonprofit industry.
Yes. So as you know, Married to the Ring, we have built an enterprise. And it's a small business according to the small business dynamics. However, we've built several channels. We've targeted in 2021 to roll out a nonprofit sector because the services that we are actually providing to corporations, to individuals who can afford to go through our programs, we also wanted to make sure that we could potentially reach faith-based organizations or serve nonprofit organizations and partnerships where they specialize in a specific field, but they also need to outsource the relationship aspect piece. And we want to be the funder and the resource provider so that those agencies do not feel the blunt or the burden of trying to distribute resources or materials that they are not qualified or it's not in their budgeted line item. I'll give you a great example. We've been partnering with AIDS Delaware for the last 6 years, although Married to the Ring is only 3 years old. And we are conducting our due diligence heavily right now and saying what give us a % of the population, because we're looking for partnering agencies that we could complement their brand by creating a transformative model that impacts the lives of people so that we are decreasing the divorce rate, right? US has the highest divorce rate out of 150 countries. It's sickening. By providing tools to partners living with HIV or living with ADHD or living with a chronic or terminal illness, providing them with the tools in order to teach them how to be able to sustain or endure in difficult times. We are going after specifically on the nonprofit sector, the single father as well as the single mother population, especially in the African American community. And so efforts are already underway. We're very excited in the build of this, and so expect to hear more about it. We have actually partnered with BrandSwan. We're excited about this because they service a lot of the nonprofit community. And so it's all about partnership, building the right partners, making sure that the right people are on your team. I have a very good team, a very solid team across the United States. I have several professionals in several sectors, but to be able to work collectively with a professional here in the state of Delaware, although we are incorporated and housed in Delaware, it's such an honor, and especially based upon the background that this team brings. We're definitely honored by that.
Thank you for that shout out. Okay, well, let's talk about you, because you've done a lot of amazing things, and I alluded to some of them already. But specifically, I wanted to talk about content, because you've written a book and you have a podcast. And when you go to the Married to the Ring website, there's products. And so with all of this content that you're creating, I guess the real question is, what do you think has been the most helpful for your brand? What have you seen the most return from? And then also, what do you enjoy the most?
So, the first question was, let me go back. Your first question was?
Oh, what have you seen the most return from all the products that you've made?
So the most return for us at this present time is ideally our seminars, our relationship education seminars. It used to be our events. But what we're finding out is that now that people are very much aware that we host seminars, workshops, and not to mention we're undergoing a rebrand that actually launches the next week, right? We're automated our relationship education tools and resources for our military sector, for our incarcerated sector, for our marriages in general, and for our other programming. We've converted everything to e-learning because to be perfectly honest with you, most of our clients are not in the state of Delaware. The way that we've cross-pollinated our organization, most of our clients are across. They're in the Midwest, they're down south, they're on the East Coast. So at this present time, we need to make sure that we continue to reach the masses across the board and provide our tools. So that's where most of our revenue comes from with Married to the Ring. And so as we begin to partner with corporations that have a domestic plus an international presence, we're looking for the end of 2020 and 2021 to be primarily where our driving revenue force is. We have a belief, my passion is in philanthropy. My track record speaks for it. In the last 2 years, I have not been in the community as much, but I've received several community awards prior to my building Married to the Ring, leading up through 2016. And I've been honored on multiple platforms. So my passion is in giving, to people in general, but making sure that all markets are able to receive the services at an affordable rate. And I think that's most important. So I'm excited. So we are going to really drive our revenue in the corporate sector so that we can better serve the community. It's top wealth. You get the wealth from the top and you transfer it down, to the communities that most need it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you guys are considering all the different levels, because what you said earlier about people who work in a toxic workplace and then they bring that to another workplace and it grows and grows, that's definitely a problem. And the corporations can afford all kinds of high-level services, including flying you across the countries, but then individuals need it too. And just personal opinion, but you watch our media and our movies and stuff, and there's no healthy relationships there. So if you didn't have a model at home, then you don't have anyone to look to.
Right. And I think, the church that I attend right now, I actually attend that church because of the teaching that my pastor provides around healthy relationships. So over the past 3 years, as I've grown in my own organization by applying the tools and being able to relate it back to scriptural references that he's teaching us, it's definitely been a rewarding experience. No one is perfect, and we have experiences that sometimes and oftentimes we're ashamed to share with individuals. But when you're at Married to the Ring, it is a judgment-free zone, and we are very prone to confidentiality and making sure that shame is not an option, meaning that it's okay. I think that what's shameful is people who are holding in toxicity and then creating an unhealthy presence for themselves physically as well as mentally. And I think that once we allow individuals to unleash what it is and then say, here, we can show you how, and then they start to recondition their mindset because they now have tools, prevention tools. I love seeing couples who are about to get married say, you know what, we want to go through this course, because we may have things that we need to address, beforehand that we hadn't even considered, because no one ever talks about providing education around marriage. Everyone's talking about career, but no education.
Yeah. Wait, my husband and I read a book about the things you should talk about before you get married. And so it was literally like a checklist. Okay, yeah. Item number 1.
Right. It was like a checklist, but we get into the meat and potato. We talk about issues, events that shape and form us, because marriages evolve over time. So someone who's been married 20 years, their journey is different. But the problem that we see on our platform is, people or parents are not transferring the knowledge down, or if they're not transferring the knowledge down, whether it's a good moment or a bad moment, or educating their children through the moments. Sometimes we're sheltering children from moments that need to be educated through. Because if they never see their parents argue, when they get into a relationship as an adult, they're like, oh no, turn that person off. They're arguing. Arguing is not bad. Arguing healthy and walking away. Conflict is not bad. It's about how you manage the conflict.
Yeah, that's so important. That's what I was thinking of too.
Yeah. And then, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was just going to remind everyone that you can ask questions. We're here. We're going to be here for a few more minutes, but I think we're winding down a little bit. Do you mind sharing your organizational goals with us?
Oh, not a problem. I'm excited. I know a lot of people, like when COVID-19 hit us, it definitely was a pandemic. I'm very sensitive to the pandemic. But the day before the governor, these things are out here biting me. The day before the governor declared a true emergency, I actually broke my ankle. And so the services that one would receive prior to COVID-19, but during COVID-19 were very different. And so I pivoted, meaning that I took the time in our organization to address all of our operational needs so that we could deliver a better experience for our customers. So that meant that we were already scheduled to move into phase one of our automation by providing e-tools to our clients and providing just a on-touch, improving how that delivery and improving how that speed looks, improving our interpersonal skills, and we spent practically all of COVID in the last 6 weeks, just make sure those specifications, those requirements were really built so that when we deploy, we're able to treat not only our corporate clients elite, but we want our individual clients to receive exactly what our corporate clients. We don't want to show any differentiation in any market. We want every person who touches our organization to receive a level of service and excellence as if it's an experience that they definitely don't want to leave from, and they want to continue on the journey and pass the word on. And so that's what we spent a lot of our time. So there is a phased approach with all of this, but I know next week it's going to really make a difference in the lives of all of our clients and how we serve them. So that's one of that was our 2020 goal. And that was pretty much to align it with our national goals. If we didn't know what the requirements were that we need to provide from a national perspective in several indicators, I don't think I would have known the changes that I needed to make at a domestic level. And so I really, I praise that program that's led specifically by several individuals, but primarily by Beth Pomper, who is she oversees that part of the state program. It's just absolutely amazing. But her partners with the SBA, her partnership with the U.S. Trade Center, the World Center. I mean, we have some very concrete deliverables that we have to meet before the end of this year. We've been fortunate enough to deliver a speaking engagement at the largest metal conference in Las Vegas that's hosted in November. I believe it's over 2,500 small businesses that will be present and introducing our winning in the workplace. So as you can see, we're moving right in alignment with all of our strategic goals.
Yeah. Okay, I'm pulling up questions from Facebook. There's a bunch of comments. So Jane asked, what happens if you have an issue with the company offshore?
Well, what's interesting, and this is why you have to take your time. So we have due diligence, our vendor requirements. I mean, some people may know the language or not. Suppliers in the U.S. is what we call them. But with our partners specifically, this is where COVID-19 was a great example. With our distributors that are locally, we were able to test to see what distributors we wanted to keep, because COVID-19 was the temperature check to see whether or not people had natural disaster plans in place. Let me go back just a little bit and share with you, Jane. I'm only able to see this because I'm a builder through construction management. So my degree and my diversified portfolio includes a homeland security concentration in my master's. So because of that, I know that every small business needs to have a disaster or an emergency plan in place. So as we're continuing to look at our partnership abroad, which we are just starting that piece because we've already identified. So now that we're aware of what borders are actually opening up, we're now systematically preparing ourselves. And once we start those negotiations, we are going to do a heavy infiltration of our due diligence on what that partner looks like and making sure that every control is in place. But once again, we're able to do that because we have the World Trade Center, a representative from the World Trade Center. We have a representative from the U.S. e-commerce. You need those people on your team. You need a Beth Pomper on your team, not her specifically, but her organization. You need Delaware Export Tech. You need them on your team because they'll be like, Tanya, here's a red flag. But in addition to that, because of my skill set and understanding what is needed in a natural disaster plan, that's where you're able to partner accordingly. You need to partner with organizations such as PTAC, here in the state of Delaware, because those RFPs, those requirements, and additional state and big contracting methods, you need to integrate those. You need good lawyers. We have an intellectual property attorney lawyer and a business lawyer. You need to have those all sitting at the table so you can have the right pieces. And then what I love most is my partnership with the leading university. They already serve 15 countries with my curriculum, 15 countries in 5 different languages. Because I'm the smallest size business that they actually deal with, our curriculum is serviced in multiple states across multiple organizations, even at the Pentagon. And what's crazy about it is, in talking with them, when we need something, they've assigned a liaison directly to Married to the Ring. So in COVID-19, they've sat there and said XXX. So those export agreements, those pieces, you got to make sure all of that stuff is airtight, and you got to test it, you got to pilot it, and you got to size it out over time. That's why I said building internationally is not something you do overnight. So we're going to take one country at a time. We're going to test market, but we like it because we're going to cross-pollinate with those organizations that have a U.S. presence as well as an international presence. Does that help?
Yes. Okay, I have one more question from Facebook. I'm on a few committees and I'm finding it hard to ask for money for nonprofit organizations, knowing so many people are struggling. How do I get past this in order to help as many people as I can?
So for me, let me just share with you, I've sat on the nonprofit side with regards to, being a volunteer on the private and the corporate side. And I also have a graduate certificate from the University of Delaware for nonprofit management, because I wanted to understand the pieces, especially since I'm fluent on the corporate side. And I would say my method is a little different. I don't know if this is the best method for you, but you have to see what works for you. First, I have created a plan targeted specifically for my nonprofit arm once we deploy it. So I've carefully done my due diligence, and we're at the bidding phase of making sure that the right people are sitting at the table with us. In doing that, there's something that you don't understand. If you have a nonprofit, you should also have a cash flow projection, meaning a 12-month projection that shows your diversified pool of income, or how you plan to have income coming in. But the only way that you can identify where resources or where monies lie is doing your market analysis. In your market analysis, you should be able to see where the central repository or hubs or partners that are either receiving the money, or you should be able to communicate with some where you can actually apply for grant funding directly in-house to your nonprofit, so that you can be a distributor of goods. For Married to the Ring specifically, we're going to own our funding, meaning that we're building a well-oiled machine, that we're going to be competitive in that market where funding is already distributed, but we're making sure that the airtightness that we have around that and our partnerships are airtight, to the point that when we go to seek or pursue funding based upon those specified periods, that we meet all of the requirements and we do our due diligence. We sat in a meeting not too long ago with someone who is very reputable with regards to how to make sure that those grants are solidified. And in doing that, we're already on par. We already know where the dollars sit, and we know where we want to get the dollars. So I think before you participate on several committees, you have to make sure you're sitting on the right committee. And I don't sit at the table with people who don't write the check. You understand what I'm saying? I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste my time. And that's whether it's in corporate, whether it's in nonprofit. I've seen instances where I can solicit documentation to a middle person, and they will never, we could have the tools that could create a transformation for their area, but depending upon the skill set of the person that is in that layer, they may not be the decision maker, and they can halt and minimize the process. This is exactly what we're going to do over in the other countries. You got to sit at the table with the people. You got to sit at the table with the right people who actually are receiving it. If you're looking for partnership as being an independent contractor to receive those funds. I hope that answered your question.
There was so much wisdom in there. I'm like taking notes.
Yeah, you just don't go and be like, oh, that nonprofit. No, you got to do your homework. In a field that we're looking at right now, we're trailing, like even for our incarcerated population, we're trailing the Department of Justice at a national level to make sure that our trending falls right in alignment, because usually you should be the answer to a policy change. That's what your nonprofit should be, an answer to a policy change that's going to impact a community, you know, and you have to size that up. So if you don't have a solid business plan, and you don't have a solid market analysis, and you don't have a financial plan in place with 12 months cash flow projections that shows a diversified pool of your entry, then you're taking a risk. And if you don't have a good grant writer, or you don't have a good piece, we own, I'm just all about, I like Tyler Perry. I've been saying it, but the world, especially in my community, had to learn it specifically from Tyler Perry. The bottom line is, I just want to own everything that I do so that I can make sure the money gets to the right hands of the right people.
Yeah.
And we have performance metrics in place.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Where can people find you if they want to get involved, if they want to take one of these seminars? Or
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So right now, just so you guys know, because I'm going to probably say this, is that Married to the Ring, you can locate us at marriedtothering.com. I would say subscribe to our email list like now, because we're going to transform, and today is what, July 3rd? We're transforming our organization in 7 days. Like, yo, I am so happy. And there's more transformation that's coming down the pipe. There's more partnerships that we're engaging in, that we're about to release. You will see a revamp. You'll be a part of our transition for a revamp, specifically on our for-profit side, if you want to see that. And then you can register for courses, because you're not going to be able to see the open enrollment dates for those courses in the consultation period until after the 10th of July. You won't be able to see that visibly. However, follow us. Follow us through that. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. We're also revamping our LinkedIn. So, we're not perfect in all of our areas just yet, but we're getting there. I keep telling people we're only 3 years old. We just turned 3 in May. But also for our contact information's info at marriedtothering.com. For the nonprofit side, something interesting is brewing in me. Like, there's 2 pieces that's brewing. I really want to create an advisory council of emerging leaders that could sit alongside and kind of watch us execute and navigate through this sector, so you too could go ahead and mold and shape your divisions. We reciprocate. So I'm also a business consultant. So I am already building 3 nonprofits in a different state. And guess what? They're the first 3 that I'm considering offloading or offshoring my nonprofit pieces over directly to their organizations. So this is something that we gotta do it together. We gotta come in this together.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Okay. So if you didn't catch that, sign up for the email list, marriedtothering.com. I will share all of the links in the comments on here, so you'll be able to find all of these resources. Yeah, I guess that's it for today. Thank you so much, Tanya, for agreeing to do this. I had a blast. It was great learning more about Married to the Ring and about your journey.
Yes. Well, Jen, I want to thank you, and I want to thank Jane. You guys rock. Listen, guys, I am ridiculously crazy. I love to have fun. You see the wind coming? So Jen and Jane, listen, I can't wait for us to do business together.
Thank you.